the best banner in 8 months. I honestly do believe that, for being a novel new thing with a brand new, totally overpowered hero alongside Hex, who is S+ borderline triple S. If you have the right builds, the right artifact, and some awakenings, definitive triple S. This is about as exciting as a banner could be. Unfortunately, we do have a bit of a cloud hanging over us because of the events of the past weekend, and right now it's kind of unequal that some people got this advantage and other people did not. I do want to report I've been in contact with the devs a lot the past 2 days, and they are working on a solution. So let's try to be patient. Let's try to be positive. Let's focus on how wacky this banner is, because very wacky indeed. This is going to be a should you summon video in which I answer the question, as I do every week, should you summon on this banner? And the answer is yes. Full stop. I can think of almost no example. I actually don't think I can think of anyone that I don't think should be pulling on this banner. Because even if we're not looking at these two legendaries, if you're talking about a new account, you've got Deimos right there. The single best single target DPS in the entire game for an epic, and exceedingly rare. But on a rate up, you've got a great shot. Navros is also a great epic, as is Cyrene. They have their little niches, Navros really just for progression, but you see how this banner is great for a beginner and phenomenal for an endgame player. Twyla is going to fit her way into definitive meta comps. She is phenomenal. Hex is already there, and if you don't have an A5, you should always be hunting for awakenings. Awakenings are very key for Hex and all these endgame heroes, so that's actually going to be a decent focus of this video. Also, guys, if you are not yet subscribed to the channel and you haven't hit the notification bell, please consider doing so. I don't ask very often at the front of the video, but we are getting closer and closer to 20,000 subscribers, less than 700 to go. So if you like my content, if you like me, or if you just like the community we're building here together, please subscribe to the channel. I really want to focus in on the question, not should you summon. I already answered that. The answer is yes. But I want to explain why you should summon. So let me show you. This is basically why. We're going to get into it during the video, but we have two exceptional S+ heroes, and you can see as you hit more and more legendaries, you have extremely high chances of getting at least one. That is a rare thing in Watcher of Realms. It is not very often we get a banner where both units are rare, exceedingly strong, and basically must-haves for your roster. That is what we're looking at here with Hex and Twyla. With Twyla, you will want her at a minimum of A1, ideally in the end game, you know, on your journey to have the perfect Twyla. And then for Hex, you will want a minimum of A3 over your journey in Watcher of Realms, and ideally eventually getting to that A5. This is such an incredible can't miss banner. Super fun that we're getting the clowny couple here on Halloween. I'm doing a huge stream. You can see the thumbnail right there, and it is going to be Trick or Twyla. We're doing a ton of viewer polls. If you want me to do your polls, I have the link in the description in the top pinned comment to sign up. It's going to be tomorrow morning, October 31st, Halloween, at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. UTC, 5:30 Central European Time. So, what a banner. Lots to talk about. Let's get into it.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
So, if you've never seen one of my Should You Summon videos before, or maybe you're new here, I usually do a fairly deep dive breaking down the kit of the rated up legendary heroes. These are heroes I've covered extensively. I use Hex, I talk about Hex all the time. I've got content on him, and I will have another guide coming out in the nearish future on him. And Twyla, I've already covered in 2 big videos, and I have another big Twyla video coming out tomorrow or Friday where I show her off in Guild Boss 1. I already did a big guide on her where I showed her off on Guild Boss 2. Go check it out. So the way I want to approach this, because I do want to get into the math as soon as possible, I'm going to do an overview of the heroes, then do the awakenings and explain why you might want certain awakenings, and then we'll get into the math, and I'll make it really clear why this is such a can't miss banner. So let me make myself tiny again. Let's kick things off with the new girl. We've got Twyla. Again, go check out my Twyla guide if you want really in-depth information. But the gist here is she has something called Deranged Blade. She has this crazy weapon, which actually, let's talk about the worst part about Twyla. The blade is going the wrong direction. Everyone comments that on every video I've made covering her. The blades are coming back towards her, so like splattering a whole mess up in her face. The blade should be going away. Maybe you guys should make some Discord suggestions to the devs to have the blade spin the other way. It's pretty wacky. That's really the only negative you can say about her. I guess the other thing would be she's yet a millionth nightmare fighter. She's one of the very, very best. She has the potential to be the most OP single target melee unit in the entire game, and that comes from the damage she's doing with this crazy weapon. I don't know what to call this. I was just Googling it. It's some kind of saw blade, power saw something. Let me know what it's called. But basically, they call it the deranged blade, and this is a 12x hitter. It does 12 instances of damage, which is fantastic for tons of content, and during the ultimate, it goes up an extra 6 instances to 18 moments of damage. That is crazy. Now, this is a specific thing, the deranged blade effect, that can be triggered pretty darn frequently, 1 in 4 times. However, every time you trigger her ultimate, that chance goes higher. 3 ultimates is the max to increase that chance, and it goes all the way up to 40%. So 4 in 10 times. That is very, 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 very frequent. This comes with crazy damage as well as bleed, which is an incredible damage over time effect, as well as essentially a debuff that leads to increased physical damage taken. She's got a very simple basic attack. The ultimate revs up her damage, reduces her attack interval, so she's going faster and faster. You get those 6 extra instances of damage, a little burst damage at the beginning as well. Really good stuff and very low cost. At full skill ups, it goes down to 600, and you really want to spam this ult as much as possible. Let's actually go to the second passive now to explain why. At max skill ups, you ignore an additional 10% defense every time you cast the ult. This goes up to 8 castings of the ult. So after you've used her ultimate move 8 times, she will be ignoring 80% defense, full penetration for the rest of the battle. This game is all about you having really high attack and them having really low defense or magic resistance. You can achieve that because they're weak enemies, or you put on debuffs, or baked into your kit, you're ignoring a ton of that stuff. And that is what she does. It is very good. This passive over here, Symphony of Ruin, I skipped over. Essentially, if she goes 2 seconds without dealing damage, her passive rage regeneration per second increases by 10, up to 20 with skill ups. It allows her to get her ult up even faster when she has nothing to hit. Finally, they are the clowny couple. She has a bond skill with Hex. There are 2 components to it. The first part is not contingent upon Hex. Obviously, you need to have Hex to unlock this, but you don't need him in the battle for the first part. And that is her first deployment cost is reduced by 6. So she becomes 6 costs cheaper to deploy. Instead of 17, that initial deployment is down to 11. Very good for arena and early progression kind of content. In terms of PvE though, it does fall off in importance later on as you progress through the game. The second part, you do need Hex. However, this is super strong. Hex is drawing cards all the time. If you have his exclusive artifact, he does it more frequently, but even without that, he draws his cards, which lead to different effects very frequently. Every time he draws a card, her crit damage is permanently increased by 5%, up to 12 cards with a max increase of 60% permanent crit damage boost. That is phenomenal. There is a nice quick overview of Twyla. Let's do Awakenings. So her A1 is by far the most important in my opinion, and it's very attainable. You just need the base copy and then the 1 additional copy. After triggering her ultimate 4 times, and you can see she's got a low cost ultimate and there's a lot of things in her kit leading to her generating rage quicker so she can very frequently get her ultimate move off. After she does it 4 times, it increases every single instance of deranged blades damage to 30%. So from 20% to 30, that's an increase of 10%, aka a 50% boost up from 20 to 30. That's really significant. When she's not ulting, she does 12 instances, so it's 240% damage. Now it's 30 per hit, it goes up to 360. And when she's ulting and doing those 18 instances of damage, with the 20%, it's only at 360. With the 30% from the A1 after the 4 ultimates, it goes up to 540%. And remember, by this time, you've already triggered the ultimate 3 times because you need to do 4 times to bring this into effect. It's going to be happening 40% of the time, nearly half the time on all her basic attacks. This will trigger as well. Very crazy. The A2 additional attack is phenomenal. She has very high base attack to begin with, as do all the new fighters getting added to the game. They're all a minimum of 6,000 or higher, it seems. But 300 attack, this game is all about attack. The more the merrier. Ultimate duration plus 5 seconds is incredible, right? Her ultimate normally lasts for 20 seconds. Now it's going to go up to 25 seconds, so it lasts 25% longer. you know, her ult is where the huge damage comes from, so this is really nice. The one downside is it takes a little longer for her to get her ults off, so it's harder to stack this passive over here. It's harder to get the 3 casts to get the permanent increase by 15% to trigger the ranged blades. And finally, it's harder to get the 4 instances from the A1 to get the boosted damage on the ranged blades. Overall, though, it is a win, especially in long battles. The downside doesn't really matter. And then the A4, an additional 8% defense penetration. So after her 8th ultimate now, she'll be ignoring 88% of the defense. It is crazy. She's just shredding. And then her A5. This one, it's interesting, but not so crazy. Upon taking fatal damage for the first time, she becomes immune to death for 6 seconds and increases damage by 100%. People have asked if this is a permanent increase. No, it's for the 6 seconds post-death alongside her immunity. That is how long the damage increase lasts. We're going to go a bit faster for Hex because he is not new. I'm not going to go skill by skill. Essentially, the way Hex works is huge bursty damage, and it is not contingent upon his basic attacks. It is very, very much focused on drawing these special cards of fate and having crazy effects. So there's 3 base effects. We've got Temperance. These are 3 cards dealing some damage with a 75% slow for 5 seconds. It is significant. He is underrated as a crowd control unit. It's unreliable. There's a lot of randomness. It's a very confusing kit, but when he does his crowd control effects, it is powerful. Then he has this card, Death. It deals 500% damage and puts a 5-second burning. This is really nice. He's dealing tons of magic damage all the time. Really bursty, really nice, meaty single hits that come in these sporadic moments when he draws the right cards. And then finally, Strength. He increases his attack. This is post-deployment, and he gets an attack speed boost. All these cards are really, really strong. Combine that with him revving up all his damage and his attack speed and lowering the attack interval and everything during the ultimate. He gets a special card during the ultimate, the Joker, which is 1200% damage, 400 times 3, and additional burning. It's very, very good. He has this nice thing where he can put stuns out. He has an interesting thing where he can get immune to damage on a periodic basis and gain invisibility. This is probably the least interesting part of his kit, and I will say that is the part of his kit that gets the bond skill boost. So once you get Twyla, when you do this passive, Fate the Hermit, you will see on top of the invisibility for 3 seconds and the full resisting of incoming damage, he's going to get a shield. It's based off of 40% of his attack. It lasts for 10 seconds. I don't love it at all. Like a well-built Hex might have, let's say, 15,000 attack. You can go higher, but I think that's a good, fair number. A lot of people will reach in the later and end game. So 40% of 15,000 is 6,000. So you're getting a 6,000 hit point shield. It's really not much. You really don't need it, especially as you get later in the game. It's just that you're not in a situation where you're like, oh, my Hex died, but I wish he had a shield. The second part of the Mon skill is more interesting, though again, a bit underwhelming. It's really just for PvP, like single target arena, where they should make for a good duo. Unfortunately, they're not the same faction, which is frustrating. But if you've already deployed Twyla, then when you go to deploy Hex after, his cost is reduced by 4. So he's only 8 costs. This also is nice for progression when you're doing things like campaign or even getting through the Void Rift, where both these heroes are very, very good, but it's not such an interesting bond skill for him. The most interesting thing is having them out there together and her getting the increased permanent crit damage. The awakenings for Hex are so good. When you get A1, there's now a chance, we don't know what the chance is, and they never say it anywhere in the game, to draw a whole new card, so a 5th card called the Fool. This card is insanely strong. It's basically a combination of the other cards, right? If we look at these other cards, Temperance was a triple hitter with a big slow. This was a 500% damage thing, right? I guess it's really just a combination of Temperance and Death, not Strength. But if we look at it, you're now getting a triple hitter and you're getting that 500% damage, but on the triple hitter, and you're getting the big burn for 5 seconds, and you're getting the 75% slow. This absolutely slams, it destroys, it brings Hex to a new level, especially if you have his exclusive artifact. A2, additional attack, is far more important for Hex than Twyla because he has far lower base attack. He is not a fighter and he's a magic damage dealer, so he's just under 3,900. This brings him just under 4,200. That's really good. The A3 now is insane. So when his ultimate is active and he's attacking a target with burning, every time he hits a target under burning, he extends the duration of his ultimate by 1 second. He can do this up to 30 hits, so he can increase it for up to 30 seconds. This used to be limitless, but it was basically broken. Now it is not, and it's still crazy. because Hex with max skill ups has an ult lasting for 35 seconds. In those 35 seconds, as you keep extending it, you will get the 30 hits out, no question. So actually it just makes his ult last in content where you keep hitting a boss under burning, essentially. Guild boss 1, guild boss 2, so on and so on. When he's focused on just one target, it allows him to have an ultimate which lasts 1 minute and 5 seconds, the longest non-permanent ult in the game. At A4, he gets 5% penetration. Kind of interesting. Twyla gets 8%. He only gets 5%. So now he ignores 5% magic resistance on the target. And finally, the A5. Each draw returns 1 Car of Fate and increases each damage dealt by the Joker and the Fool by 30%. Basically, every time you're drawing a card, the big hitters, the Joker from the ultimate, and then the chance to get the Fool from the A1 are coming with a 30% damage increase. You can see he's got some of the very, very, very best awakenings in the whole game. This is a can't miss banner. If you don't have copies, you need to go get copies. Obviously, no one has copies of Twyla. And then if you already do have Hex, you're gonna have to pull because you're gonna want to get some awakenings. If it wasn't Twyla, if it was Hex and Azor or Hex and Cratch, yeah, maybe you could justify skipping if you already have an A1 or an A2 Hex, something like that, right? However, he's paired with a brand new, incredibly overpowered hero, so how could you not pull on it? Even if you're a big player with an A5 Hex, that means you pull a lot, you probably spend a lot, or at the very least, you've been very lucky and you're very competitive. You need Twyla, so you're not going to skip it. I don't see people skipping this banner. Let me really drive the point home with some math. All right, guys, I do not want to take too long on this. I know math can be boring for some people, and I don't want to bore you. I've done a lot of research. Shout out to T, who's helped me get a lot of the base numbers to figure out the rates to get different heroes in the game. And it does seem when you're dealing with a rare bucket hero, so not a common or normal legendary, someone like a Hex or Twyla, not like a Calypso or an Abomination, for example, the rate they actually get on a 15x rate up is more significant than 15x. It goes up to 19%. So this actually comes out to like a 20x to a 30x, depending on how many heroes are in the pool at that time and other specific factors. But consistently, they're always neutralizing it to make it about 19%. So we have 2 desirable heroes, both with a 19% chance that you can get them. If you want to know what the chance to get either of them is, obviously you just add this together. 38% chance anytime you pull a legendary, you are going to get Hex or Twyla. That means over 1/3 of the time, which may not seem like much, but in these kind of casino-powered games with these gambling elements, 33% plus is really good, and you have 38% every time you're hitting a legendary. I want to show you as you hit more and more and more and more legendaries, what your chances are you've pulled either of them or one of them specifically. To do that, we need to know what is the chance not to pull them. So obviously the chance to pull Twyla or Hex is 19%, so the chance not to pull them is 81%, 100% minus 19%. Then we know the chance to pull either is 19 plus 19, so 38%. The chance not to pull either, so to pull neither, is 100% minus 38%, 62%. So now let's plug this in and do some math. If you pull one legendary, all those numbers are the same. The chance for Twyla is 19%, Hex is 19%, chance for either is 38. To calculate the chance when you pull 2 legendaries that you've hit at least one Twyla or at least one Hex or at least one or the other at least once, this is how you do it. You do 1 minus 81% squared, or 1 minus 0.81 squared. So basically you're saying, what is the chance I don't get it twice? And then you're subtracting that chance from 1 to find the chance that you did get it at least once. So it's 34.4%. So if you pull just 2 legendaries, you have a 1 in 3 chance already you're getting Twyla. Same thing, 1 in 3 chance you're already gonna have a shot for Hex. The chance for either is already through the roof, over 50% now. You have a 61.6% chance if you pull just 2 legendaries that one of those 2 legendaries, at least one of those 2 legendaries, will have been Hex or Twyla. We continue to do this over and over, so now it's 1 minus 0.81 cubed, 1 minus 0.81 to the 4th, so on and so on, and our chances get higher and higher. There's obviously a negative being outlined here as well. You could pull 3 legendaries, and you basically have a 25% chance, or a 23.8% chance, neither of them are going to be Hex and Twyla. That would be frustrating. You were saving up for a while, you hit 3 legendaries, and you missed them all 3 times. It's not, oh, the game is rigged. It's, oh, you were the unlucky one of the 4 that didn't get one of them at least once. However, it does not take long to basically get closer and closer to, wow, you'd have to be really unlucky. If you hit 5 legendaries, you have less than a 10% chance you haven't pulled either one yet. And finally, it will happen if there's 1,000 of us pulling 10 legendaries, there will be 8 of us that don't get Hex or Twyla at all. You can be really unlucky, but when we have 2 great heroes both on rate up, it's pretty unlucky and pretty unlikely you could pull 10 legendaries and not get one. You have over a 99% chance. The key breakpoints I think here are the 3 legendaries pulled or the 4 legendaries pulled. I think a lot of people probably would be happy with either, but some people in their heart of hearts really want one or the other. If you pull 3 legendaries, you have just under a 50% chance, just under a coin flip, that you're getting the one you're looking for, whether that be Twyla or Hex. And then if you pull 4 legendaries, you have just over a 50% chance, nearly a 60% chance at 57%. You guys can take a screenshot of this, share it with your friends or whatever. This is basically the table showing your chances. And you've got a pretty good shot as far as these games go. They make it really hard on you, but when we have these moments when they put 2 really good, really desirable heroes on rate up, the door is wide open. Should you summon? Yes. Why should you summon? Because I just explained it to you. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Fastidious. If you like my stuff, please give it a big thumbs up. Remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell, all notifications. Let me know in the comments if you're pulling or if it's in the future how your pulls went. Share it with your mother, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.